everyone, it's Shel from Paper Rock TO Studio. Today I'm sharing with you my take on the Artist Trading Card Challenge from Pick a Stick Challenge. You know, that's the group that we have over on Facebook where we offer challenges that have steps that are picked randomly. And in this video you will really see how to work out something that's random. These steps are weird, but they turn out fine in the end, and that's the challenge right there. Nothing pre-planned, just take the steps, do them in order as they come. The first step was to use hand stitching or machine stitching, and so I decided to do hand stitching. And my ATC card is made out of 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, so it's pretty heavy stock. And then I got out a foam pad and a pokey tool, and I made a very simple drawing of a flower, just real simple pencil drawing of a flower. And then I took the pokey tool and poked holes all around the lines. You could do this with a needle or something like that. If you don't have a foam tray, you could use an old meat tray just to protect your surface. It's not a big deal. It gives some place for the poke to go that's, not a hard surface. And you could use a needle to poke instead of a pokey tool if you don't have one. That pokey tool is called an awl, A-W-L, in case you guys didn't know. And I'll list the one that I'm using underneath the video if you guys want it. It's really nice. So then my next challenge was to find a needle with a big enough head and then something that I could get through the needle. And my original idea was to use jute, but it was too thick and it kept separating. I couldn't get it through the needle. So then I tried some hemp, which was a little bit smaller. Couldn't get that through the needle either. So then I finally settled on this baker's twine, which is originally was to, tie boxes shut at a bakery or something like that. It's cute. It's black and white twist. I have a package of it that has a whole bunch of different colors, and I thought maybe I would do the flower in a color and then, do the leaf in the green and white and the flower in like orange and white or something. But I just decided to just use the black and white for the whole thing. So I'm doing a running stitch, in, out, in, out. The back's not going to look very pretty. That is one thing. Artist trading cards, you usually write your name and information on the back. I'm going to end up backing this with another piece because the stitching on the back doesn't look very pretty and I wouldn't be able to write anyway. So I'll be putting another backing piece on it. So this part of the process probably took the longest, just getting the stitching done. I could have made a simpler drawing, but this drawing is pretty simple. Like I think I already said, but if you didn't want to make a drawing, you could use a stamp and just stitch around that instead, or a digital image or something like that. You wouldn't have to make a drawing, but this is just a very, very simple little flower, nothing fancy at all. So the hardest part was just the time it took to do the stitching, and also the fact that my hand kept going to sleep. I think I have a little bit of carpal tunnel or something in my wrist, and it makes if I do these little stuff like this with these little tiny, holding on to tiny little things, my hand starts to go to sleep. It makes me so mad. So yeah, still stitching, 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 stitching. This is sped up to 8 times fast. This ATC took me a total of 56 minutes to complete the whole process. And so I've sped it up, most of it 4 times fast, and then in this case it's 8 times fast just to get through it faster. You wouldn't want to sit there for as long as it took for me to stitch all this, but the end result is really cool. It's textural. I could see using this on like maybe if you're going to do some dripping or something like that, or if you want to make a textural collage where it has texture underneath and then collage over the top, and I can see a lot of really fun stuff to do with this. Might have been the first time I've ever stitched on an ATC. Well, it is the first time I've ever stitched on an ATC. I might have made a few simple stitches on a journal page before, but yeah, this was fun. A lot of fun. So I just glued the ends down with a little bit of tacky glue. I didn't want to make knots because I didn't want to make it more bulky than it already is. And pretty happy with that. The next step is to emboss something. Emboss means make raised. So most people think about embossing as putting a plastic powder on and melting it, which makes it raised from the surface. And another option would be to use like a stylus and press from the back and push it out, push the paper out to make it more raised, or use a brass stencil and a light tool. There's a lot of different types of embossing, but I decided to go with your common heat embossing. But I didn't want to use a stamp or anything, so I decided to just use the refill from my Versamark pad. Versamark is a pad that a lot of people use for embossing. It's kind of a sticky, oily ink, and you stamp with it, and then it makes a sticky place for the powder to stick to. But instead of doing that, I just put a little bit of that ink on my palette, used a small brush, and painted in the petals to begin with. You would only want to paint in the thing that you want like I'm going to be using 3 different colors of embossing powder: yellow, green, and kind of a rusty color. So the first thing I did was paint in the petals and put the mustard colored embossing powder. A lot of people think about embossing as only being like gold or silver metallics, because that's really popular and elegant on cards. But there's all kinds of colors of embossing powder. There's tons. And these 3 are from a set that I got a long, long time ago that was to coordinate with the Earth Elements colors from Stampin' Up. And I don't even know if they still have this stuff. It was a long time ago. But there's an olive, a mustard, and a rust. So I do the center of the flower with the rust. You can see I haven't even used these. They're probably 15 years old. That one wasn't even open. So that's how much I emboss. It's a messy process, and I don't enjoy it that much, but it makes a cool, shiny, raised, plasticky effect. So it turned out really cool for this project. The next step was to use paint or ink and then close the book. Well, of course, these sticks are designed for doing art journaling pages, and so this is an ATC. I don't have a book, so I decided to take another ATC, tape it to it, and then it can fold. This is basically making an ink blot, which is unpredictable and fun. I decided to use this highly concentrated watercolor, fluid watercolor from P.H. Martin, Dr. P.H. Martin. A teal color, and then the color called saddle brown, which is kind of a rust. So I blotted the center of the card because I didn't want too much of the ink to go over my flower. And that actually worked out really well because the baker's twine was raised. Even when I pushed those 2 pieces together, I got like a nice halo around it, a nice white halo around it, which was a cool effect, I thought. So in the place that I didn't get enough paint the first time, I went over with a brush and put some more on, and then squished that card back down there again. And I'll have that second ATC to use for a different project, already with color on it. So this was fun. I was dreading it. I almost thought about using the wild card and not doing this step, but then I thought, well, I need a background. And it turned out cool, very cool. I like it. So for my finishing touches, like I said, I wanted to put another piece on the back to cover up the stitching that I think is unattractive. So I cut a piece of plain black cardstock, and then I trimmed down my ATC slightly so that there would be a nice black border around the edge, which brings in some coordination with the black and white baker's twine as well. And so now it's got a nice clean back for me to write on. Then I decided to make some splatters with some white, titanium white, golden high flow acrylic, because I like splatters and I think they look nice with that watery color effect in the background. And then I added a Tim Holtz sticker and drew around it, a black line around it so that it stands out a little bit more. And that's pretty much all I did to this ATC. So if you like this challenge, you want to have some art journaling and ATC challenges, be sure to come join us over at our Facebook group, and the link is below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, and share. Thanks. Bye-bye.